The title of this video is actually somewhat misleading. There may be another. Netflix is the name of the video, but Netflix is actually another Meta. If you remember, if you've been following, Meta had what was recently a pretty big drop that caught a lot of investors off guard. And there's a reason for this, and I think there are other companies that have the same set of parameters that follow the same principles and may have a similar reaction. So what exactly are we talking about? Well, Meta was certainly a COVID beneficiary. Saw its numbers up because of the pandemic. A causation correlation. Not Tesla, which is seeing its numbers go up after the pandemic and through the pandemic, but not necessarily caused by the pandemic. Meta, when everyone's staying at home, certainly caused by the pandemic. Its bump. Netflix, when everyone's staying at home, certainly its numbers were up because of the pandemic. So these companies, one can call and consider COVID beneficiaries. We had previously said this was something with Zoom, or other people had previously said something with Zoom. I had not owned Netflix until today. Hadn't owned Meta much. Before that drop, I actually had put options on it, long-term put options, leap put options. Here we are. Now they are in a different, more normal economic environment, and the parameters, their forces aren't as strong. They're not as much COVID beneficiaries right now. So all of a sudden, people get a little scared, and they want to revalue the companies, which I think is a pretty just thing to do. A lot has changed since before the pandemic, particularly in streaming. It's become a little bit more of a competitive space. There's more companies involved. There's more product offerings. So, Netflix isn't going to be this like monopolist player. So there you go. You got to revalue the company. That's just the way it is. Similar thing with Meta. And I think there might be a couple more victims out there that have had a little bit of this COVID valuation dysmorphia. And I'm very concerned about that because these companies are the biggest companies in the market. So if we have to revalue them, we have to revalue the market because they are such heavyweights. And if we revalue the market, that certainly will affect many other stocks. And we'll have to see what happens with that. But nonetheless, I am concerned. Apple is a great company. And they're not going to be, the main example here. But just going to lay out some facts that Dan Niles has laid out and I think makes a very compelling case for. Before the pandemic, Apple, one, had a much more reasonable multiple valuation. And two, was seeing iPhone sales growth slow. Okay, that was a normal environment. The pandemic happens. People buy a lot of Apple products. They see tremendous revenue growth. And all of a sudden, the valuation starts to reflect, growth. When companies are growing, we give them higher multiples. Well, how long are they going to be growing is the question. That is force number one. I think that is also applicable to another multi-trillion-dollar company, Microsoft, and possibly even Amazon. These are multi-trillion-dollar, massive companies, and if they take any sort of valuation reset, that's certainly a concern. These are more fundamental forces that affect these companies. However, there's another one that is also quite important, and it's the flight to safety notion. Now, the flight to safety notion typically goes to the 10-year Treasury, 20-year, 30-year U.S. bonds and stuff, right? But during the pandemic, it seemed as though Microsoft and Apple, FANG, etc., were flights to safety. And when bonds were yielding nothing, why not diversify that flight to safety and get something that can adjust to inflation, that has a dividend at one point higher than the return on those bonds? It was a good move. As we've been talking about for a long time, though, that excess capital might need to get deflated a little bit. And that's just the way it is. You know, I'm not trying to pick on any of these companies. I'm not even trying to say they're going away. Actually, I would like to say they're going to stay. I believe that they're going to stay. I believe these are big companies and they're going to remain big. And I want to shift the paradigm a little bit, give a little bit of my take. So many of you know that I have been very heavily weighted in energy companies. A lot of these energy companies are over 100 years old. And I think these tech, platform building block type companies, they're probably not going away. I don't think Apple's going away anytime soon. I think we're going to continue using Apple products for the foreseeable future as long as they keep delivering us quality. And I think that's going to be the case. But like energy companies, they kind of they're just there. They're big, they produce cash, they pay dividend, and they do their thing. And I think these companies are very, very, very mature, okay? This is no longer Steve Jobs in the garage. This is, you got Apple's campus. They're already dominating the world. You want them to dominate more of the world? We've got population deceleration, okay? And I blame these guys in part for that, in my opinion. So, they're big. I'm not saying they're going to be small. I'm not saying they're going away. I'm saying there's some market dynamics out there that have caused very excessive valuations, and I don't think this is a surprise to anyone. And there's been a little bit of short-sightedness or lack of understanding by investors and just capital movement that is technically not lack of understanding. There's actually probably a good move. Why would you take nothing when you could have something? Apple is certainly something. And there's just forces that might cause these companies to experience some turbulence, and therefore the market up however many double-digit % over the last 2 years to also experience some turbulence. So just acknowledge that. We're sticking in individual opportunistic names, playing the downside a little bit, and we're playing rates. You can check out the progress report, you can ask me questions, or you can become a client. These are the best ways to get information on how I'm portfolio managing and how I am up tremendously this year, up over 55% as of this video. So, that's today's video. And until next time, peace out.